This is Guppy Care 101. I'm Sid Rosie, and let's get started! If you need any tips on how to cycle the tank, how to clean the tank, and how to clean your filter, I have videos on that in my fish playlist. My first tip is for those of you who haven't gotten your guppies yet. I highly recommend supporting local fish businesses over bigger chains like PetSmart and Petco. If you don't have any mom and pop shops around you, there are some great breeders online. And if you absolutely must go to a big chain store, they might give you some fry for free. I got some guppy fry for free from Pet Supermarket because the owner said that they probably would have been eaten anyway. Your average guppy will get about 2 inches big. I recommend at least a 20-gallon tank for guppies, but you can get away with a 10-gallon, especially if you're not planning on breeding them. Of course, bigger is always better, and you could go off and have a 100-gallon guppy tank. Not just for the guppies, but for you, because the water parameters will remain more stable and you won't have to clean it as often. As far as the water temperature goes, you want to keep it around 76 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Keep in mind that warmer water will speed up their metabolism. You want to keep your pH as close as possible to 7. And you'll want to keep your water hardness around 8 to 12 degrees of general hardness, or 150 to 200 parts per million. There are some things you can do to adjust your pH and hardness naturally. You can use tannins to lower pH and hardness. Tannins come from wood, leaves, pine cones, things like that. Crushed coral will raise water hardness and pH, while Wonder Shell will raise hardness without changing your pH. This might go without saying as well, but guppies will prefer a longer tank rather than a taller tank, so the more horizontal you can go with your tank, the better. As far as tank decor goes, guppies aren't that picky about it. I like to have driftwood and live plants in my tanks with guppies. I highly recommend live plants over silk or plastic because they help keep your water clean. For guppies with big flowy fins, you'll want to avoid plastic plants because they can be sharp and tear up the fins. Same with sharp rocks or wood. I've heard that silk plants can release dye into the water over time, so I avoid those. Some beginner-friendly live plants I highly recommend are hornwort, guppy grass, anacris, anubias, jungle val, duckweed, and salvinia. This is the fertilizer I use. The pump broke. This is not sponsored. This is the Aquarium Co-op Easy Green fertilizer. It's a liquid, and I recommend it for all of those plants I just suggested, besides maybe the jungle val, because that primarily feeds off of its roots, and for that I would recommend root tabs. Now I want to talk about stocking a little bit because it goes hand in hand with your tank decor. So if you get all male guppies because you don't want them to breed, they will be a little bit territorial and aggressive toward each other, and I recommend packing your tank with plants as heavily as possible. If you end up going with all females, they'll be a lot nicer to each other and they won't be able to breed with each other, but beware that you can get one that is pregnant upon arrival. That's happened to me before, and I had to separate the babies by sex. If you decide to have a mixture of male and female guppies in your tank, then be sure to have at least 2 females per 1 male to reduce aggression in the tank. How do you tell a female guppy from a male guppy? The first thing you want to look at is the shape of the body. Especially on adult guppies, you can see that the female is bigger and rounder, while the male is more small and slender. You can also look at their stomach. The female will have a gravid spot, which is a darker spot on the belly, and that's where she stores her fry. Females also tend to be less colorful than males. Their only color typically tends to be on the tail, while males can be colorful all over, and they generally have bigger, more flowy fins. Again, this is a generalization. There are females out there that are more colorful than males, and there are males who have less flowy fins than females, which is why you can also look at the anal fin to be sure. Females have a rounded anal fin, while males have a more pointy one, and I think it's actually called something else. I'll put it on the screen. I'm pretty sure it's his penis. Those male guppies will be going after the females constantly. Females typically have about 20 to 50 fry per litter, and they can give birth as often as every 21 to 30 days. So be prepared to have guppy fry as often as once a month, or even more if you have more than one female. And yes, guppies are live bearers, which means they give birth to live young. They just out comes a guppy. No eggs necessary. I don't recommend breeding boxes whatsoever. When you put a pregnant female into a breeding box, it causes so much stress for her that it can cause premature birth, and that leads to unhealthy fry. But one way to tell for sure if a fry was born prematurely is if they still have an egg sac attached to their stomach. You can also tell if a guppy has given premature birth if her litter is smaller than normal. What I've always done is just leave the pregnant female in the tank with everybody else. She gives birth, I have guppy grass and a bunch of plants packed in there, and the fry hide until they're big enough to not have to worry so much. Once the fry are born, how do you take care of them? When caring for guppy fry, you want to keep the water as clean as possible. Fish release growth inhibiting hormones into the water over time, and the more of those that build up, the less growth you're going to see from your guppies. So that's why it's important to do water changes. You also want to be sure to feed them 3 to 5 times per day, and my go-to food for guppy fry is baby brine shrimp and Hikari first bites. For adult guppies, I recommend live and frozen foods as well as vegetables and pellets and flakes. So basically everything. For frozen and live proteins, I like krill, tubifex. I don't like it. The guppies like it. Krill, tubifex worms, brine shrimp, bloodworms, black worms, daphnia, scuds if they're small enough for the guppies to eat them. For vegetables, I recommend spinach, zucchini, romaine lettuce, peas, green beans. You do have to prepare the vegetables a certain way before you feed them to your guppies, and I recommend researching each one first on how to prepare it. But in general, you want to blanch the vegetables to get them nice and soft. As far as pellets and flakes go, I'm going to show you all of the ones that my guppies like. We talked about the first bites already. Gotta love Fluval and all of their flakes. Guppies have really small mouths, so these 2 pellets I highly recommend. Bug bites from Fluval and the New Life Spectrum Beta pellets are small enough for them to eat. These 2 packs of pellets are also small enough for them. Green nori is great for when I don't feel like blanching vegetables. And these veggie tablets are great because you can stick them to the glass and they'll stay there and all the guppies will gather around to pick off of it. I recommend feeding adults once a day. Feed them as much as they can finish in 1 minute, and do not leave any food in the water because it will spoil the water. What are some good tank mates for guppies? Well, you want to make sure that whatever fish you put with your guppies has very similar care to them. Keep in mind not only the water temperature, pH, and hardness, but also their diet. I personally have kept platies and swordtails with my guppies. They're just other live bears that have similar care. Guppies are pretty friendly when it comes to snails and shrimp, so I wouldn't worry about them too much. I've kept ghost shrimp, mystery snails, ram's horns. Those are the basics of guppy care. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. If you can answer any questions in the comments, please feel free to help everyone out. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace and love. Fun fact, actually, guppies were discovered in South America in the 1860s and they were once used for mosquito control.